Hello friends, in today's video we are going to be working on some preparedness things, getting things put into the freezer for later use, prepping food for immediate use, and just any other kind of situations we can get ourselves into to get food prepared. You know, winter is coming. I know it doesn't seem like it today when you can hear the air conditioner going in my house, but it'll be here before you know it. And so you want to get everything that you have worked so hard in the garden put up, and also find ways to save money. This is like an inflation beating video, just different hints and tips and techniques that you maybe can use in your home to help save money on the grocery bill. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm not sure exactly what all I'm going to get done today, and this video may even bleed into tomorrow because I always put more on my to-do list than I have time to do in one day. So let's get started. And as usual for my house, before I can do anything in the kitchen, I've got to get this counter cleaned off. It is absolutely the catch-all for everything. And we're constantly juggling things back and forth, back and forth, back and forth anytime we need to work in the kitchen. So let's get this counter cleaned off. So the first thing I want to tackle today, I had a couple days ago, I had a whole bag of lemons, and I zested all of them, and then I squeezed them, and I put the juice in these little ice cube trays. They're silicone ice cube trays. I got them from Amazon, and I put them down in my freezer. And so now I'm going to get these bagged up and put them back in the freezer. I will link these trays in the description box below if you're interested. It actually came with a set of three, but I didn't need all three of them. So I just used about one and a little over a half. I will get these back in the freezer, and then every time I go shopping, I'm going to buy another bag of lemons, and I'm going to do the same thing. Each one of these little cubes is 2 teaspoons of lemon juice. So you can just take one of these cubes, throw it in some water and have lemon water, throw it some iced tea to make lemon tea, or if you need to use it in a recipe, it's all measured out for you. So this is a great way to use up citrus fruit of any kind. You can do this with limes, oranges, grapefruit, anything that you have that you're not going to use up in time. Get them juiced and zested and get them in your freezer, and it's a perfect way to use up citrus fruit. Save it for the winter time when citrus fruits aren't in a season, or if they're hard to find, and it saves on waste. If you've overestimated what you're going to use and you're afraid it's going to go to waste, just do this and it will save the fruit for later. The next thing I want to get done is some homemade granola bars. Now, I've made granola bars in the past, and I told you that once I got the recipe perfected, I would share it with you. I think we've worked out the bugs in this recipe, so I'm going to share it with you now. My goal is for us to completely stop buying any pre-made granola bars specifically, and I want to get to the point where I don't buy any more cereal as well. I just figured those are two things that I can make very easily, and they would be healthier because I will know exactly what ingredients are in them, and they will be cheaper in the long run. Although the ingredients for these recipes are things like nuts, which can be pretty expensive. It's the initial cost of the nuts, and then it makes a lot of granola, and it makes a lot of granola bars. So in the long run, it's cheaper than buying all the processed boxed cereals and boxed granola bars. Sorry about Olivia's bird. There's always some kind of animal noise in this house. So anyway, let me share with you the recipe for our peanut butter chocolate chip granola bars. This is a very easy recipe. It's basically you dump everything in a bowl, mix it up, and put it in a pan and put it in the oven. I have doubled the recipe because I know that with my husband and my kids, they will eat these up pretty quickly. So I will have the recipe in the description box below, but it will be the original recipe, not the doubled recipe. Like I said, keep in mind I am doubling this recipe. So you're going to start off with oatmeal, of course, or rolled oats. I've got 6 cups of rolled oats here, and to this you're going to add 1.5 cups of peanut butter. I sprayed the cup with cooking spray so that the peanut butter came out very easily. You're also going to put in 1 1/3 cups of honey. I also sprayed these cups with cooking spray, so this stuff will come out easily. I am going to scrape it out though, so I don't lose any yumminess. That's 1 cup of honey. And then here's 1/3 of a cup of honey. And then I've got 4 eggs here that I've just beaten with a fork. Beat them up a little bit more here. Pour those in the bowl. That is all of the wet ingredients, and so you're just gonna mix, mix, mix till all of this is really well incorporated. It may take a few minutes to do that, but you just want everything completely incorporated before you add in your add-ins. That's what they're called. Now to this basic recipe, you can add anything you want, really. The sky's the limit. I'm making mine specifically peanut butter chocolate chip. So I'm going to be adding in some miniature chocolate chips, but you can add in, if you don't want chocolate in them, you can omit that. You can put in dried fruit. You can put in all different kinds of nuts or seeds. You can put sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, like anything that you think would be good in a granola bar, you can add to this recipe. If you want to increase the protein in it, you can add protein powder, your favorite protein powder. Now if you do use the protein powder, you will use for a double recipe, you would use a cup of protein powder, and then you would reduce the oats by a cup. So you can do that. I didn't do that this time. I may do that in the future. Add some protein powder to this, but I didn't. I chose not to do that this time. Just wanted to share with you the recipe that we have been I've used. So this is pretty well incorporated. I'm going to switch to a different spoon that's a little bit sturdier. It felt like this rubber spatula was about to break on me, and I didn't want that to happen. And while I'm mixing this up, I have my oven preheating at 350 degrees. So you just want to get way down in that bowl and make sure you get all the oats, because I can still see some dried oats in there. This is pretty much incorporated. So at this point, I'm going to add my chocolate chips. I've got the little mini chocolate chips. These are the ones that are allergy free, no dairy in them. So that's 1 cup of chocolate chips. I'm also going to add 1 cup of dried cranberry. I just wanted to add a little bit of tartness to this. And then also to ramp up that peanut butter flavor in this. I wanted to add, I mentioned I also used crunchy peanut butter, but you can use crunchy or smooth, whichever you like. But to this, I'm going to add an additional 1 cup of chopped peanuts. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all mixed together, and then we'll move on to the next step. If you were just doing a single recipe, you would use a 9x9 sprayed baking dish. But in this case, since I've doubled this recipe, I'm going to use my big jelly roll pan. And you just want to spoon it out onto it as evenly as you can. So once you get this spread out as evenly as you can with your spatula, then you're going to take some parchment paper. You're going to cover this with parchment paper, and then you're just going to press this down as very, very firmly. You want it all the way to the edge of the pan, and you want it to be really compacted so that when you cook these and when you cut them, they won't crumble apart on you. I can't guarantee that these won't crumble apart because I've yet to completely figure out how to keep them from doing that. This parchment paper idea is a new idea for today. So you're kind of going to go along with me a little bit to see if we can keep these bars from crumbling once you cut them. So let's go ahead and get this pressed out and pressed firmly into this pan. Alright, that's about as good as I can get it. There's a few little chocolate chips stuck to the parchment. I'll get those off of there because you don't want to waste any chocolate chips, right? Alright, that looks pretty good. So you're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven. It says for 15 to 17 minutes, but because I doubled it and because this is a pretty thick bar, I am going to leave it in for 20 minutes and then I will check it and see where we're at. So when these are cooked, I will let you know at the final amount of time it took for these to bake. And I'm going to let them cool completely before I try to cut them. So I'm going to get these in the oven, and then we are going to work on getting some corn in the freezer that we bought from a roadside stand. We're going to get that corn processed today. I got 2 ears of corn now that have like this little baby corn sticking off from it, and this is what it looks like. So we're going to wash them up and we'll see if Olivia's parakeet wants to eat them.
Parakeet? Cockatiel.
What am I saying? Cockatiel. Oh, good grief. So yeah, we'll see what that one looks like.
I think this one is bigger than the others.
Well, maybe it might be worth us just using. probably
I don't know. They doesn't look fully
immature.
formed.
Yeah. That's weird though. I've never seen two cobs on the same, like connected like that before. Weird. The corn has been peeled or shucked and scrubbed. You scrub it to get all those little hairs off, as many as you can. These are 2 pieces of corn that we had left over from our supper last night. They were already cooked, so I'm just going to go ahead and cut those off the cob and get them in the freezer. I've got water boiling here, and I've got the sink being filled with cold tap water. Now some people add ice to their water, but I found it's really not that necessary because we have really cold water that comes out of our tap. So yeah, I don't mess with the ice. So what I do is I put about 6 or 7 ears in the pot of boiling water, and then we cook it for about 3 minutes. We just blanch it basically. I'll put 8 in. These are a little bit smaller ears. So we'll set our timer for 3 minutes, take it out of the hot water, put it into the cold water. That just stops the cooking process. And then once all of this corn has been blanched, then we will cut it off the cob, and I will show you how we do that. The setup that we use for cutting the corn off the cob is we get a bigger bowl, and then we set a smaller bowl down inside it upside down. And so what that does is you can balance the corn on here and then cut it off, and as you cut the corn off the cob, it falls in the little moat around it, and it just makes it easier to cut the corn off the cob. I don't remember where I learned that little trick from, but it has worked really well for us. I've also heard of people using bundt pans, using the center of the bundt pan to hold the cob, and then it goes into the round part of the bundt pan. But I only have one bundt pan, and this was easier because my bundt pan's downstairs. So it won't take us too long to get, this is less than 2 dozen ears cut off the cob. We are packaging these in 2-cup packages because Olivia and Scott and I are the only ones that eat it, and any more than that we always have extra. And I'm going to use my vacuum sealer, and then we will get these in the freezer. We got 5 packages of corn that will go in the freezer, and we will enjoy this winter. And the cobs will not go to waste. Those will go out to our chickens, and the husks will go in our compost. So nothing goes to waste. Back to the granola bars. They are done. They baked for about 25 minutes. As you can see, it started to get a little bit too dark around the edges when I checked it at 20 minutes, but the inside didn't seem quite done enough. So I just put some foil around the outside and cooked it for another 5 minutes. So if I was to do this again, honestly, I probably won't do a double batch again, because this is honestly the first time I've done a double batch, and it's much easier to deal with it in single batch form. So that's just what I've discovered. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to cut around the edge and flip this out so that I can cut these into bars. Let me see if I can get that done. It came out quite easily using some parchment paper. So now I'm going to go ahead and cut these into bar shapes, and I'm going to bag them up individually into little snack bags. And you will want to store these in the refrigerator because there's no preservatives in them, obviously. Here they are. I have 36 of them, including this one, which I will bag up in a minute. I just wanted to show you that they did definitely stay together in a bar form this time. They did not fall apart. So using the rolling pin with the parchment paper and pressing really hard made a huge difference. Now, at the beginning of this, I told you this was my perfected recipe. Well, I guess now it is officially my perfected recipe, because I have learned I do not want to double this recipe in the future because it made them thick. I had to bake them longer to get them done in the middle, and it caused them to get too dark around the edges. Not burnt, but almost burnt, and a little bit dark on the bottom. Not bad. I mean, if you really like your stuff extra toasty, then that's fine. I don't mind it this way, but next time I make these, I will use the single recipe. I will roll them out with the parchment paper and press them very firmly, and I will then only bake them about 17 minutes instead of 25, which is what I ended up baking them for. So I think this was a success. It was very easy, and I got 36 granola bars that are healthy, no preservatives. I know what's exactly in them, and we'll keep these in the refrigerator, and our family will enjoy these for probably 2 to 3 weeks to come. Well, it's actually a few days later, and I wanted to finish up this video. Time got away from me the day I started this video, and I didn't get absolutely everything done that I wanted to, and it's just, you know, life's gotten in the way, and I haven't had a chance to get back to the video till today. But the last thing I wanted to do in this preparing for inflation, preparing for things, anything that might happen in life, and ways to store up food, is I wanted to show you my jars here. These are all things that I have dehydrated in my dehydrator that Travis got me for Mother's Day. A lot of these things were vegetables that were in my freezer, and I needed to make room in my freezer because we butchered all of those chickens, and I had 2 small chest freezers that I needed to clear out, and there was a lot of vegetables in there that needed to be cleared out. So like, these are mixed veggies. Got those all dehydrated. Spinach, I had a bunch of frozen spinach in the freezer, and so that's all dehydrated. And see, I can put these things in soups and stews and different things this winter. And what I did is I dehydrated them really well, and then I bought some of these. I think you can see it floating in there. Those are moisture absorbers, and I just threw a moisture absorber in each jar just to make sure, because you don't want to go through all of this effort to dehydrate food, and then if a little bit of moisture gets in there, it can ruin the entire jar. So yeah, I put those in there just as a little insurance against moisture. These are peppers and onions. I was gonna hopefully dehydrate a lot of stuff from my garden this year, but my garden is not very good, so that's probably not gonna happen. I am dehydrating herbs though. My herbs are doing really well. I got this much thyme out of my garden this year. This is my cilantro. My cilantro plant is done for, so that's all I'm going to get out of that. But the big thing we're doing that we're getting a ton of is basil. Our basil plants are just doing fantastic. And so what we ended up doing is grinding it up into a powder so that we could fit more into a jar. And this is all ground basil from our garden. We have used it, and it's very powerful, very strong. It's nothing like the stuff you get out of the store. So I highly recommend that if you have a chance to grow basil and dry it and grind it up, I would definitely do it. It's going to be a huge savings. I mean, this will last us a long, long time. I may not even have to plant basil next year, although it makes a really good companion plant to our tomatoes. But anyway, for today, I have in my dehydrator, I have a little bit more basil that I need to process and get put away, but I also have some kale in there. And this is as much kale as I was able to get off of my garden this year. And then I bought some kale at a market, and I want to get that done. But as you see, this jar is full. So I'm going to go ahead and grind this up into a powder and then transfer it into this jar, and then keep buying kale whenever I can get it and dry it, because that would be excellent in soups, smoothies, anything. It adds a bunch of nutrition. And if you don't like kale, this is a way to get kale in your diet and you don't even realize it. I mean, you can even add it to cake. I mean, chocolate cake, you'd never see it in there. So anyway, that's what I want to get done today. And then I'm going to reload the dehydrator, and I'll show you what I'm going to reload it with. I made these waffles a few days ago, maybe a week or so ago, and they're not getting eaten up. They were made from a mix that I had. It was called multi-grain, I can't remember, multi-grain something. And what are you doing? Stop it. And I didn't really care for them that much. I think Travis has been eating them, but he may not eat any more of them. So I'm going to just cut these up into small pieces. I'm going to dehydrate them, and I'm going to feed them to my dogs for little dog snacks, little dog cookies. And speaking of dog cookies, this is actually chicken. I had several, like 3 or 4 bags of grilled chicken, already cooked grilled chicken strips in the freezer that got buried. You know how it happens when you have a chest freezer. Things get buried, you forget about them. And so when we were cleaning out that chest freezer to make room for our homegrown chicken, we found these bags of chicken, and they were perfectly fine. In fact, they weren't even past their sell-by date. The only problem was they were full of ice and they were freezer burned, and I didn't want to throw them away. So we dehydrated them, and we made these into dog treats, and our dogs absolutely love them. I don't know if you, these are so hard. They're just dry as can be, dry as a bone, and he knows, see him? He knows what's in there. He loves them. Hear how crunchy they are? Oh, he's like, okay, where's more? One more piece. I gotta get, well, Sally's sleeping. But they absolutely love them. Absolutely love them. So that's another trick. If you have dogs and you have some meat that's freezer burnt, you can either cook it up, if it's raw meat, cook it up and dehydrate it, or cook it up, just put it back in the freezer and use it for homemade dog food. But just don't throw it out. If it's freezer burnt, you can still use it for other things, even if you don't feel like feeding it to your family. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to get that stuff out of the dehydrator, get it ground up, and get these cut up and put on, and get them going back into the dehydrator. And this is what I use to grind up my spices in, and my herbs. This is just a little coffee grinder. I don't even really remember where I got it. Probably off of Amazon years ago. But as you can see, we just did basil in it. So I'm going to go ahead and do the rest of the basil first, and then I will do the kale. Here's the basil. It raised it up just a little bit when I ground up the rest of that. And then this is that kale. Remember, this jar was completely stuffed, packed full, and plus I had still had some in the dehydrator. And when you grind it up into a powder, that's what it does in this little jar here. And this another little tip for you. If you guys get the Classico spaghetti sauce, it actually says right on it, Mason. Wash these up really good, put them through your dishwasher and disinfect them really good, and you can use them to store things in. Don't throw them away. And then you can use your mason jars for canning if you guys do canning. So there's what I got done. Now I'm going to get the waffles chopped up and get those in the dehydrator.
Alright friends, that's it for this video. I hope I gave you some motivation to find ways around your house that you can save on your grocery bill or to store up food for later use, different tips and tricks for food storage. Inflation is real and I see it more and more every time I go to the grocery store, and that just motivates me to want to preserve food, grow food, and save in every which way I can at the grocery store. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. And thanks so much for watching, friends. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.